So let's look at driving a motor vehicle, for example. There's rules and regulations in driving a motor vehicle. You have a license, there's a demerit system, you have points, you can accrue a certain number of points in a certain time. If you exceed that, you lose your license. It's that simple. So, and also it costs you when you create an offence. If you accrue too many points, you lose your license, so you're not fit to drive on the road. You're not fit to share the road with other motorists and or pedestrians. You are deemed to be, let's say, a danger to pedestrians and other motorists. And until you can prove that you have been rehabilitated from that particular problem that you obviously have, you will not be allowed to drive on the road. Now that penalty might be time, might be money, it might be another test. But the fact of the matter is, in alcohol and also in driving a motor vehicle, there are rules and regulations, there are penalties, there's a demerit system, there's a rehabilitation system. They all exist, so we do not inflict danger or can cause bodily harm or injury to anyone or anything as a result of the fact that we are irresponsible. If you take property and liability insurance companies, so think of your home, you know, you have your home and contents and you've got public liability, so if someone comes to your home and hurts themselves, you've got insurance for that, right? But they take into consideration where you live, the sort of dwelling that you have. In other words, they measure risk, and based on risk, they choose whether, one, they'll insure you, and secondly, the premium they're going to charge you based on the risk that they're going to be exposed to. The same happens with life insurance companies, you know, your life. If you're a smoker, overweight, have poor health, you might have a family history, are of a certain age, etc., etc., etc. All these factors contribute to, one, the level of insurance that you'll be offered, and also what the cost will be for that insurance if you're offered it at all. So of course, someone who's in perfect health, is young, has no family history of any modern disease or anything like that, will probably be given life insurance. But if you're older, you have a few health issues, a couple of risk factors like obesity would be one, blood pressure, maybe diabetes, heart disease, and all these other sorts of things that inflict our population, well then, you might not even be offered life insurance. So there is risk in everything. If you go another step further, just have a think about what you watch on television, what you listen when you play a CD, and what you read. There's age groups. There might be a P or a G or an M or an R rating on a movie, for example. When you pick up a CD, there might be an R rating on that which says that this particular CD might contain, you know, language that might be offensive to certain people, etc. Okay, there are warnings everywhere. There are controls even in that. So we are cautioned to read these warnings, so therefore we don't see inappropriate information. In other words, there are warnings all along the way. Some content is deemed to be suitable for some and not for others. And the reason why that is, like imagine you watch a movie and you see people running around and doing inappropriate things with other people who are underage, for example, or yield a gun or some sort of weapon and, you know, continue on in life bludgeoning people to death, or taking a motor vehicle and speeding and doing all these sorts of things which result in injuries, etc. A young person, for example, or someone deemed to, let's say, not be mature, but usually it's related to age, that's why I said a young person, they would not be, if they're young, they would be considered to might be influenced as a result of the images that they see and the words that they hear. They might not be able to tell the difference between what's real and what is not. And this is why there are ratings, to protect us as our minds mature. Now, we anticipate that by the time you get to an adult age, and for drinking alcohol, it's 18, and it depends on which part of the world you're in, of course. Some start as early as 16, some go as late as 21. Most countries sit around 18, and Greece is the only country at 17. But anyway, there are laws, etc., which exist to protect us. To say that when you get to this point, this particular age, it is reasonable for us to assume that you have achieved a certain level of maturity that will enable you to exist and participate in our society and follow all the rules that we have in order to maintain some level of existence which is civilized. So, it's fair to say then that if we can adhere to the rules that are there in front of us, we can maintain balance in our lives. Okay? That's the whole point of it. So let's look at the example of driving a motor vehicle. If you drive a motor vehicle and you do something wrong, you get booked. Okay? You lose a couple of points, or sorry, you accrue a couple of points. As soon as you accrue too many, you might lose your license. There's a penalty system there. Let's say you do something bad to someone else. The worst thing that can possibly happen to you is you might be put in jail. So people deem your existence in society to be such a threat to society itself that they remove you from it. So there's one extreme. So there are controls in all our lives. It is imperative that we maintain control. And in these examples that I've just given to you, if we do not maintain control and we are deemed to be a threat to the remaining people or the rest of civilized society or all property, we are removed from it. And by being removed from it, we are kept away until such time as we are rehabilitated to the point where we can then rejoin society. So it's fair to say that rules, regulation, order must be maintained in order to have balance, in order so everything works and everyone is safe. So now I've established the foundations of my argument in a way. Okay, there are controls for everything. I want you to consider somewhere where there are no controls. If I was a 7-year-old child and I walked up to a counter of a fast food store and I said, can I have a quarter pounder with double cheese, large fries and a large carbonated beverage. I don't want to mention any names, of course, right? It's pretty hard not to do that, right? But you know exactly what I'm talking about. Fast food outlet. And I just handed over my money. Now, even though the calories in that meal would exceed what I would need an entire day, and would probably be what would be sufficient for an adult to consume in an entire day, I can consume in one meal. And that person over the counter has no problem at all giving me that meal. They will gladly take my money from this 7-year-old and give me this food. Now, that food is well in excess of the recommended allowance of fat, protein, carbohydrates, salt, and basically it's too much food for a 7-year-old, and the balance of nutrients is out of whack. Yet there are no controls when I'm given that meal. Nor are there any controls if I happen to be very, very overweight. I clearly am overweight, yet I turn up there and I ask for food. And I'll be given it. Now, I might order 5 burgers or 3 or 2 or 1, or just be there for breakfast, lunch and dinner. And you know that, like they know, that that food is inappropriate for me to eat every single day. But it's not their problem. But what I'm trying to say is that there are no controls in that. The only person who controls that is you. But in everything else we do in life, in civilized society, controls exist to stop us. I just use the example of a 7-year-old child. Now, I'm sure you've been in that situation or have seen it. So the fact remains, there are no controls in fast food companies. When I turn up to purchase a meal, I'm not rejected at all whatsoever. I'm not... like if I was being served alcohol, someone would look at me and say, look, you're too young, I can't serve you. Or, look, I'm sorry, you're too intoxicated, you can't, I'm not going to offer you another drink. Or, excuse me, sir, you've obviously had too much to drink, can you please step out of the vehicle? Or, excuse me, sir, you're shouting too loud, you're becoming obnoxious, and we don't tolerate that sort of behaviour in this environment. We have all these controls, right? But not for food.